Diddy is the topic of the week. What's going on with Diddy is he was obviously arrested. They've got him in Manhattan. They won't even give him bail. His lawyers applied for bail for him.
Basically, they were trying to say, oh, he's giving away his passport. He's not going to talk to anyone. He's not going to be able to talk to his family members. All of his family members are going to give away their passports. But the issue is not him traveling. The issue is him still being able to speak to his, his victim, which is the witness tampering.
Well, hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Only Lawsuits podcast. I am Joshua Mobijohn.
Mike Singh.
Farah Nwaz.
And this is the podcast where we discuss lawsuits going on around the country, along with events in pop culture. Mike, why don't you get us started off?
We're talking about Diddy.
Did he do it?
Yes, he did.
Diddy is the topic of the week. I mean, we talked about him briefly last week. Or in the last episode. We obviously had a real good conversation yesterday, but we didn't hit record, so we're gonna redo it.
We're learning on the fly, folks. We're learning on the fly.
So yeah, but what's going on with Diddy is he was obviously arrested. They've got him in Manhattan, and they won't even give him bail. His lawyers applied for bail for him. The federal magistrate, for those of you who don't understand kind of the federal system, federal courts, especially criminal courts, they have what's called a magistrate judge. It's kind of like, I think of them like the baby judge, right? But they're not babies at all. They're serious. These judges they know their stuff. They're just eventually gonna be full judges in the federal system once they're appointed. But what happens is the magistrate judges make a lot of the decisions for the cases and send it up to the judge that's actually handling the trial and, send up their opinions and what they believe should happen. And then the judge generally accepts those things. I was watching some videos, and keep in mind, I don't practice in federal court regularly, so I'm not as super familiar with the rules, policies, and procedures. But what I do know is that the federal judges rarely go against what the magistrates say in their orders. So what happened was the magistrate judge basically said, hey, we're denying bail. He is a risk to the safety of others. And Farah, you were talking about that a little bit, about why. Tell us why they thought he was a risk to others.
Witness tampering.
Yes.
So basically, they were trying to say, oh, he's giving away his passport. He's not going to talk to anyone. He's not going to be able to talk to his family members. All of his family members are going to give away their passports. But the issue is not him traveling. The issue is him still being able to speak to his, his victims, which is the witness tampering.
Yeah, and that goes back. I watched a video on that last night. They were talking about how there was supposedly a situation where someone filed a case against him, and he literally called 100 times, I believe, to try to talk to them about the case. And then remember the case last week with the $100 million judgment guy. There was accusations by the guy that was in jail that he actually went to the jail and tried to negotiate a settlement with him without a lawyer. So, I think what they were trying to do initially was say, hey, he's helping with the case, or he's, cooperating is the word that every defense attorney uses. But basically what they were trying to do was get him to where they would let him out and he could wait for his trial while he was, outside, and then go to trial normally. And not to say that he may not get bail in the future, but likely it's probably kind of slim. But what they were doing is they're really trying to stop him from, impacting the witnesses for this case.
The follow-up question that I have for that is, do you think that him actually being able to leave prison is a real possibility? And two, do you think that he will actually get the opportunity to potentially to talk to these victims to settle the case out of court. And the reason why I ask that is a lot of times when these lawsuits are filed, a period of time passes by, they end up settling out of court. And that doesn't happen all the time, but from what I've seen, with a lot of like these celebrity cases, they end up, bringing forth a lawsuit, and then, the case ends up disappearing.
So I guess there's a little bit of confusion there. There's no settling out of court for this one. He lost that opportunity when the civil cases got filed. And we'll get into that in a little bit about the civil cases, but this is all up to the federal prosecutors in the state of New York. And what I was getting to earlier is the Law and Crime podcast. They basically were talking about it, how the state of New York, the federal prosecution percentage is, I think, 94%. Like when they go to trial, they have a 94% conviction rate. And additionally, I think it was like 90 something percent of the people that have charges brought against them in New York federal court, they actually end up taking a plea deal. So I say all that because at the end of the day, the evidence against him, federal court would not have probably filed these charges if they didn't think they were going to win. And them winning is keeping him in jail and taking his assets.
And they're not even trying to get him out based on saying like, oh, there's not even enough evidence. They're just trying to get enough to be like, hey, can he be at home while all this goes on? Because he's not going to last in that prison right now. They're trying to put him in solitary just for his own safety, because the place where he's at is rough.
And I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that's where Epstein supposedly killed himself.
Yeah. Well, this prison is known for not having the best conditions. And from what people are saying online, it's known to break people's wills.
Yeah. Again, I'm going to pull up a video that talks about some of the evidence they have against him, which I thought was interesting.
No, we support Diddy. What's up? We the supporters.
We've been anticipating it for months, and it finally happened. Charges filed against Sean Diddy Combs, alleging coercion, violence, all wrapped up in a RICO charge. And while a few are still showing their support, the evidence is piling up against one of the top-selling rap artists of all time. We are taking a closer look at the best evidence the prosecution has that could send Sean Combs to prison for the rest of his life. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
This is a great YouTube channel, by the way.
54-year-old Sean Diddy Combs was led out of a federal courtroom in New York on Tuesday by marshals, uncuffed but headed straight for jail. He spent the night in the MDC, the Metropolitan Detention Center out in Brooklyn. It's a notorious jail that has had some pretty bad history of violence, suicides. Sex offender Jeffrey Epstein being held there prior to his trial when he was found.
He didn't kill himself.
Dead in his cell in 2019. Actually, interestingly enough, Damian Williams, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, was actually asked yesterday if he was worried about Combs' safety given the Jeffrey Epstein situation. Essentially said, look, we have to strive to keep everyone protected. This is just the way the criminal justice system works. Interesting question, nonetheless. By the way, a form filed with the court on Tuesday afternoon lists Sean Combs as the defendant, and then under bail disposition, detention, risk of flight / danger, it has an X mark next to it. Also checked is the box next to defendant arraigned, pleads not guilty. Now, we've gone over the 14-page indictment filed against Combs in the Southern District of New York, plus letters regarding bail sent to the judge by both the prosecution and the defense. You can check out the Sidebar episode that we did there. We kind of did a deep dive. You can check it out on the Law and Crime Network YouTube page. But right now, what we want to talk about is something else. So the documents, what they do is they give us a better idea of what Homeland Security agents found inside of Combs' homes in Los Angeles and Miami when they were raided back in March, as well as other evidence that they have collected during the course of this investigation. The Southern District of New York is well known for being one of the top courts. The attorney here was asked during a news conference on Tuesday why the charges against Combs were brought in New York instead of Florida that appears in your upside down. You bring up
their homework, and they're really making sure that these charges stick.
So, Robin, what do you think? Because this is interesting. You heard Damian Williams say they're confident their office should handle it. You know, there were raids in California and Florida. There seemed to be a connection to New York, saying that this criminal organization, this criminal enterprise, was based or had headquarters in the Southern District. What do you make of this case being spearheaded by them, and what do you make of the indictment that we saw?
I'm trying to find the video where they actually talk about the evidence, but they really do go in and talk about the evidence that they, I don't know if it's in this video or another video. They talk about the evidence that they found, which is kind of crazy. They talk about they found baby oil, right? Like
1,000 bottles.
1,000 bottles of baby oil, right? That's actually,
But you know, 50 Cent, he's doing better things than having 1,000 bottles of baby oil.
so 50 Cent, 50 Cent's hilarious, man.
He's the biggest troll on the internet.
He
And
is.
He's amazing.
He's amazing.
On it. He's
Yeah.
on it.
He's on it. I mean, he posted that clip with Drew Barrymore saying, look, I'm out here with Drew Barrymore, but I don't got 1,000 bottles of baby oil.
Yeah.
And then all the memes that are going around are hilarious.
But for that to be like in a raid as, evidence about like his sex trafficking and all of that.
They got videos. They got videos of these quote unquote freak offs. Here's what kind of is a little worrying. If you think of the Jeffrey Epstein situation, right? There's Jeffrey Epstein basically did everything he did. He had his little log of people that went there. Think of that. He died because whatever conspiracy you want to think of, but look, the people that were on that log did not want to be released. There's people on those videotapes engaged in sexual acts with, prostitutes, so on and so forth. This isn't just a paper book. This is actual video proof that's going to ruin people's careers and lives. Technically, probably their lives probably be ruined because they're pretty people if they're doing this. But this really does pose a risk for Diddy's life, 100%. Number one. Number two, I think it's going to really expose a lot of Hollywood and the people that are in these things,
He's been well known for the parties that he's thrown, and I mean multiple celebrities have mentioned them attending the parties.
Josh is from Josh used to be in California. You ever went to a Diddy party?
I've never been to a Diddy party.
Oh, thank God. I would have to end this podcast real quick.
You know what's actually funny is that there are a lot of celebrities that have attended the parties, and when all of these charges started to come to light, everyone started coming forward saying, "Oh no, I never saw anything like that. I left the party early."
Dude, I was just watching an interview and what's crazy is now that this is becoming such a thing, all of these interviews with people being asked about that are popping up. Marlon Wayans. Oh yeah, I never saw any of that. I think there was one with Chris Tucker where he said the same thing. So there's another, I kind of get fall into rabbit holes sometimes with like conspiracy theories. A big one that people aren't really aren't talking about yet and been kind of quiet is Jay-Z. So I've heard, like Jay-Z, there was a video I watched where they were saying, oh, Jay-Z, Diddy was like, Jay-Z's the only person that can call me by my government name other than my mother. That shit is a little weird, dude.
Yeah.
Shit's a little weird.
Makes you think.
A follow-up that I want to ask you both is about the civil lawsuits against Diddy. So now that you kind of clarified the type of lawsuits that are that have been currently filed against him, we know that the gentleman behind bars that sued him for $100 million won a default judgment against him. Now, does this strengthen the civil suits against him or weaken them in some sense?
Like I said, it can cast a lot of doubt on a lot of things because you don't know who to believe, because then, there'll be people who come out for the money. Unlike the Cassie Ventura case where you have all of this evidence, and then there's going to be people who some people who aren't going to believe Bill Cosby situation where there's, you know, oh, there's been so much time between that. Who do you believe? Who do you not believe? So there's going to be certain situations where there's going to be people coming into it for the money, and then there's going to be people who actually were victims, but you're not going to know the truth until and unless there's going to be more proof.
And to follow up on that, I think it complicates the civil suits a little bit more, because now that criminal charges are pressed against him, right, it's going to impact the civil lawyer's ability to sit down and depose Diddy. A lot of people don't realize this, you know, in Florida, especially the rules of discovery allow you to ask questions about anything that's relevant to the case. Discoverable evidence is based off of relevance. Now, whether or not it is going to be used is a totally different question, but whether or not something can be discovered is more broad. Now, with this case in particular, the reason I say that is because now that there's criminal charges being filed, they're not going to be able to question him under deposition anytime soon. Until the criminal charges are dealt with, he's going to be able to hide behind his Fifth Amendment privilege, entitling him to protection from self-incrimination, right?
Well, follow up to that, we know that in his particular case, he came out and he made a public apology to Cassie recently over social media. Now, just what you just said, that's an excellent, you know, topic of discussion, because does that hurt him in the long run, coming forward and publicly apologizing to Cassie for doing those things to her?
Oh, 100%. I think, you know, I tell clients straight up, stay off Facebook, stay off social media, stay off Instagram, because you may think you're helping, you may think you're trying to do something to paint yourself in a better light. You're just screwing yourself over. Social media is a case killer, right? Social media, people do not know what they're doing. They post whatever they want. They don't realize the implications of what it is. And look, you can have the best lawyer in the world, but the best lawyer in the world cannot fix a shitty client. And that's the one thing I think, you know, I was thinking about this before, and yesterday I had a little bit more of I guess I scrutinized the lawyer's work, you know, in my head a little bit more than I should have. Realistically, I wonder if it was his legal team or if it was him in his arrogance that chose not to settle the Cassie Ventura suit. Because as we all know, the Cassie Ventura suit is what paved the way for the FBI to start their investigation. It also paved the way for countless other civil suits to be filed. And now, look, Cassie, a lot of respect to her. We've seen the video of what she went through. It was intense. But, you know, all these other victims, hopefully, you know, they're legitimate claims. I believe, you know, anyone that's willing to put, you know, words on a paper, I believe them more than I believe someone that just says it. But at the end of the day, they're not probably going to walk away with much, because the lawyers in his criminal case they're going to clean him out financially. This is going to be millions of dollars he's going to spend. And realistically, it's a risk reward analysis. You're going to spend millions in attorneys to possibly save a company that's worth millions. But after all this is done, I don't even think that company, anything he touches, will ever be worth anything.
It always hurts you. It can always be used against you. It seemed entirely disingenuous. You can tell his arrogance. And even if you flip the coin, if I was his attorney, I would completely have advised against that.
I think that video really destroys any sort of credibility that he had on his end, just based off the fact of that is only a snippet of what has been described against him. And a lot of what you see in that video is what people say that happened. And that's the only thing that we're seeing. So if you leave it up to the imagination of what's actually going on behind the scenes, Farah hit the nail on the head. I really do think that it is arrogance, because he, you know, circling back to that, he bought that video from the hotel for like $30,000.
Yeah.
So nobody would see it.
Yeah, and his apology was man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in a dark place. At the end of the day, shut up. Just shut up. No one wants to hear it.
And you know what? Even thinking about it from the standpoint of a consumer of social media, take our profession out of it. Take being in the legal field completely out of it. When we see apology videos from YouTubers, from any other celebrities, when have we ever completely seen it as being genuine, where they're crying on camera, like, and it's not just for the views?
And it's also like those tears are not genuine, in my opinion. At the end of the day, we all know they're only doing it to save their image, which has some value, because honestly, without a celebrity without an image is worthless. We talked about Kevin Spacey yesterday.
Those public apologies and those tears that you're talking about, it's not for the victim. It's for lost opportunities.
Yeah.
Right. So
it's a PR stunt.
It's definitely a PR stunt.
He had to return the keys to the city of New York. He had to return them.
So Kevin Spacey is a good example. It's a good small segue while we discuss Diddy, because he was someone that eventually had the major case that was filed against Kevin Spacey by that theater actor Anthony Rapp ended up getting dismissed, a few years later due to lack of evidence. But what ended up doing Kevin Spacey in was actually the public apology that he made.
Yeah, that's the one where he was like, I choose to live my life as a bisexual male or something like that. Like we talked about, I do, look, the allegations, did they have some merit? Possibly. Did the case get dismissed? Yes, I guess. I don't know with certainty because it's been so long. But, like, look, I loved House of Cards, right? I thought House of Cards was one of the best political dramas, ever produced. It was one of the I think you told me this, but I didn't know the Netflix like Dun Dun is actually, isn't it Frank Underwood hitting the ring on the table? Like, it's an iconic piece of pop culture, right? House of Cards was a great piece of history. And now look, his image is tarnished. I mean, I still watch House of Cards because it's a great fucking series, right? But will I ever want to watch something in the future with Kevin Spacey? Probably not. I'm always going to think about it. And look, like that, what he did was not, what he was accused of is not something that I condone at all, So it's weird. But how do you feel about when you see a celebrity that you genuinely did enjoy kind of fall from grace? What do you think about that?
I feel like these types of scandals are always going to tarnish their reputation, and it's always going to be hard to look at them the same way, like no matter what it is. And it's, as much as you want to, you're going to want to try to separate the art from the artist, but it's still going to be hard to look at them.
Here's a question. Would any of you watch anything with that very famous French actor, Jussi Smollett?
No.
Oh, the Empire guy.
The Empire guy. Yeah.
Very famous, very French actor.
That's something that's really hard because he faked the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's my thing.
That's even, I can't say that's even worse because obviously,
Yeah. But that's my point. Like, look, people, no matter what it is, whether it's something as severe as sex trafficking or rape or, domestic violence, or just being a liar, someone that's willing to lie to people for financial gain. I can never put my time and effort into someone like that. And then you look at, people that are naturally, that's why I kind of really love the fact that social media has allowed the opportunity for creators to become entertainers. Like, no longer are we bound to watching, like the craziest thing, if you think of the Diddy case, what he used to do and the way they're trying to wrap it in is they're saying what he would do is promise people, you become my basically my girlfriend or whatever, and I'll give you access to Hollywood and sell you this dream. And it's the dream that we see in cases every day, in bullshit cases where people go and finesse other people. That's what they were doing, and they were using their companies because they had the power and they had the connections. Now, social media and the internet has come along to where we can sit down and we can be a form of entertainment for us, even if it's a small audience.
And we can't forget the fact that one of the tactics that some, people like him would use is they're roping people in, not only for promised opportunities, but roping them into the lifestyle, like paying for their rent and giving them like a monthly stipend, and when, these people feel obligated and, what's the word I'm looking for? Just reliant.
Yeah.
Reliant on him. I feel like that's what gave him the opportunity to kind of push these victims into sex trafficking.
Or sometimes they just get addicted to drugs and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So here's a question I have for both of you. How do you feel so we all remember the Rock the Vote campaign? Here's a video that, of Diddy during 2016. He was wearing an Obama chain shirt, and I think it's hilarious, right? Like, look at this.
Bad boy for life. Bad boy for life.
Right? So,
Bad boy for life.
so
It was kind of catchy.
it was. I mean, I thought that's a good song. That was a good song.
I think sometimes it's hard to know at the height of someone's fame what they're up to.
And that's my point. How do you guys feel knowing all the people he was connected with, right? The president of the United States, like literally, he was connected to President Obama. I know I believe he, obviously Jay-Z, there's a bunch of famous rappers and there's a lot of people that he was tied to. How do you cast, your judgment on his acquaintances?
I'll let Farah start that off.
I don't know. I feel like you kind of have to just see what they say, how they react to those things. I feel like if they don't say anything, then you kind of have to scrutinize them. But, I guess see what they say, see how they react, and see if they take any accountability for their interactions with that person and if they actually knew what was going on.
I think that it's a complex topic because society itself, we like to build people up and then tear them down. And with somebody that had as much influence as he did, not only in hip hop, but the entertainment industry in general, I think most people, the more casual acquaintances that he had, I can't say with certainty, but I'm positive that like a lot of them didn't know what was going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Now, the people that are in his innermost circle, the ones that you constantly see around him, on his socials or, through, paparazzi photographs or whatever else, those are the people that definitely do need to be held accountable. Like his entire family, his son, the people that he had on staff, people that were a part of the record labels, that were working closely alongside him. I mean, his entire core team, those are the people who are truly accountable because those are the ones who were pushing this on the victims.
I personally think we need to sue Johnson & Johnson. I mean, listen, first it was the baby powder, now it's the baby oil.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm
He
just kidding.
probably just had a recurring Amazon order that, his assistants forgot to cancel.
I will say that it's not a good look. You're getting caught. You're getting accused of sex trafficking. You have federal charges being brought against you, and then the first piece of evidence that they come forward with is 1,000 bottles of lube. I mean, come on, man.
So like number one, I think there was a video, a Facebook video or a meme, that video of Diddy shopping. Let me pull that one up. That's so funny. Shopping for Diddy be like, it's not playing the audio for some reason. But it was, it's basically like this, creator dancing and just putting tons of baby oil in his cart. And I mean, but to go on what you're saying, like, so if your boss is saying like say I go to you, hey Josh, go and pick up 1,000 bottles of baby oil, and like I'm writing your paycheck. Do you think you should be liable if I have a freak off?
I mean, I'll tell you what, if I ever came by your house and you had 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lube, you know, on any one of those shelves, I'd question, number one, your sanity, and two, I'd question the reason for you inviting me over.
Well, first of all, I'd just be like, I know you like to go boating, so maybe you're just getting a suntan or something.
Yeah, that definitely would not be going through my head.
That's not what I would think you're doing with it.
I mean, well, there we go. It's gonna be
He needs a moisturizer. I don't know.
Look, bottom line is Diddy ruined not only the victims' lives by doing what he did, but all of the people that worked for him, that had a career, that truly are innocent. Their lives are going to be impacted by this, and
100%.
And they're going to get blamed for things that they didn't really have much to do with, and they didn't probably want to be involved in.
yeah.
Well, I think something like this, I mean, we can all agree on, it basically just sets off a grenade. Everyone who is any sort of close, anyone who has any sort of tangibility in within his social circle and who interacts with him more frequently is going to be caught in the blast, and they're going to have to deal with the repercussions.
I'm going to tell you, I bet you he's pissed off as shit as his PR team for telling him to change his name to Diddy.
The Diddler.
The Diddler.
The Diddler.
Diddy do it.
Hey, that's all 50 Cent. That's all 50 Cent.
Dude, Surviving Diddy is coming out. I can't wait. And it'll be even funnier if they put it on Netflix.
No, 50 sold it to Netflix.
Oh, dude, I can't wait. Can't wait for Surviving Diddy.
How long do you think that this case will take to play out?
It's going to take years. Look at the, is it the Young Thug with the YSL case, and I think it's in Atlanta. That's gone on for over a year. I think they've been in trial for over a year.
Well, he also didn't waive his speedy trial rights or anything, so this is going to go on at least in federal court for a while.
Well, I think so. One thing it's interesting, I saw an interview with his attorney, and his attorney said that he's going to try to make this go as quick as possible. I think that's the biggest mistake, because listen, like I said, federal state attorneys, federal attorneys don't play, man.
He wants to make it go quick because he doesn't think Diddy's gonna last in jail, and that probably may be true. So,
How much time do you think he's looking at?
Same thing as R. Kelly, man. He's being charged similar to R. Kelly. I mean, the only possible positive thing that comes out of him, serving the amount of time that he's probably going to have to serve is we might get a really good album between R. Kelly, Diddy, and
no, but except
Fetty
Diddy hasn't released music in a really long time, so I don't think we're gonna hear anything out of him.
Shit, we might get some bangers from some inmates.
That's a really poor choice of words.
Bangers. Ooh. Well, a last follow up I have on this. So I literally just thought of it, is a lot of these people that do attend parties of that nature, or maybe more private events, they are required to sign NDAs, right? So we know that a lot of these attendees that have taken part in these supposed freak-offs, there are a lot of NDAs that have probably been signed over the years. Now, with the federal charges being brought forward, what type of insight can you and Farah give on the NDAs themselves, and what would allow those people who signed them to actually come forward and speak about their experiences?
Listen, I mean, NDAs are a contract. Whether or not they're enforceable, it really is subject to the laws of the NDA, subject to, the laws of some sort. But a lot of the time in many NDAs and stuff like that, there's a requirement or language that allows people to speak about things if they have to comply with, legal, like criminal investigation, stuff like that. Obviously, we don't know what those NDAs look like. I haven't been able to scrutinize them, so I don't know. The likelihood is, even with those NDAs, I think at best it might, say that there's some consent aspects to it, which is his attorney's best argument is, these people willingly consented, but I still don't think, there's literally law out there that says you can't like consent to illegal acts. You can't enter into a contract. Like you can't give me a contract to say, hey, Mike, you can kill me. You know what I'm saying? Just because you put that on a piece of paper and sign it doesn't make it a fully legal enforceable contract. A lot of the times it has to be allowed to be a contract per the law. So it's going to be interesting to see that NDA situation play out. But look, I mean, great case. Look at the Donald Trump situation.
Yep.
Stormy Daniels, I believe, had an NDA or confidentiality.
I also think it depends what liability you're willing to take on, because if you break an NDA, some people might not care.
Yeah.
Some people might be willing to take on. Some people might be willing to pay. Some people might be willing to take on whoever this big bad person is.
Yep. But yeah, I think that's a wrap for us now.
That's a wrap. Great episode. Did he do it? Yes, he did.
I'm gonna say maybe, but I mean the lube. Explain 1,000 bottles of lube, man. It's hard to do.
I definitely don't think that he's going to be able to explain that away anytime soon. But
Johnson & Johnson's crying right now. Stock's going down. Feel bad for him.
I don't.
Procter and Gamble took a gamble.
Well, hey, guys, thanks. Thank you for your time. To anybody watching, thanks for tuning in. Another episode down packed. If you have any comments or suggestions for some future topics, leave them in the comments below. Only Lawsuits podcast, sponsored by Kraken Law Group.
And I am Michael Singh, the owner of Kraken Law Group. She works at Kraken Law Group.
And I'm Josh. And until next time.
Peace.